Typically, SMSF lending is very much focused in non-residential property markets. So for the residential sector, SMSF lending is a relatively new phenomenon. So we are seeing the proportion of lending from SMSFs becoming much larger, but it's moving from virtually nothing to only a couple of percent. So I think the overall effect on the housing market is still a relatively small one. It's a new source of demand, don't get me wrong, so it is somewhat of a disruptor, but I think the overall effect on the market is still quite small based on the overall magnitude of lending coming from that particular source. Well, considering SMSF lending isn't that large a magnitude of the housing market at the moment, banning that particular source of lending, I don't think would have much of an effect on the overall housing market direction. Clearly, there are a growing number of people who are taking money out of their SMSF funds to fund housing, so I think that would be somewhat disruptive to that particular trend. But overall, I couldn't see it affecting the direction of value movements or the rate of capital gain or largely affect the number of transactions which are taking place in the housing market due to it being a relatively small source of funds. I'm not too aware what the SMSF laws are at the moment for lending, so it's kind of a hard question for me to answer. But at the moment, my understanding is it's not a very large component of lending into the housing market anyway. It'd be much different if it was if we're looking at, say, industrial markets or office markets or small retail as a different asset class. But for residential housing, I couldn't really see changes to the regulatory environment affecting the housing market too much from a, say, a value growth perspective or even a volume perspective.